Hi, my name is Mike Bonadies with the Merchants of Business, and today I'm going to go over a very easily looked over but critical element of business decision making. That is future and current costs. I'm going to go over what future and current costs are, how their interplay can affect a decision, and then also a couple examples of how looking at future and current costs can help you avoid really bad business decisions and make possibly lucrative ones. The concept of current and future costs is actually a really straightforward one. Current costs are the cost of your product right now, or what it costs to make your product underneath the current circumstances that you manufacture underneath. Larger companies will sometimes refer to current costs as standard costs. The reason they call it standard cost is because they strike their current or standard cost at the beginning of the year. This helps drives consistent processes across all functions because everyone's using the same standard cost. So how's that executed? Essentially, in the beginning of their fiscal year, they take all of their products and they say, this is how much that product is going to cost, and that's how we're going to use that when we run our processes or our equations or run scenarios throughout the entire year. Future cost is what your product costs in the future, hence the word future cost. Now, the future could be 10 days in the future. It could also be a year in the future. The important underlying concept is that future cost represents what your product costs underneath a different circumstance. Future costs for larger companies can also be referred to as actual costs, which is incredibly counterintuitive, right? The reason that they're called actual costs is because of how the interplay between standard cost is struck in the year and then what happens to your product throughout the year. So real quickly, let's go back to that company that struck their standard costs in the beginning of the year. It's January. They strike their cost at the start of their fiscal year, and 4 months down the road, the commodities that make that product change in price. Now, because the commodities changed, the actual cost of the product changed. So there's this gap between what was struck and what the product actually costs. So that could be, that difference is usually defined as your current cost, right? Because that was what was struck at the beginning of the year, and then the actual cost, right? What your product actually costs. If you're not a larger company, right, the most important concept to grasp is that current cost represents how much your product costs underneath your current circumstances, and future costs is what the cost of your product is underneath a different set of circumstances. Why is understanding the interplay between future and current costs so important? Well, I mean, it's pretty simple, right? Better information leads to better business decisions. But it's not just quite that. If you do business through distribution, you're probably shipping quantities that can cause massive swings to your P&L. You want to avoid putting yourself in a situation that results in negative impact due to short-sightedness. At the same time, you want to get aggressive and possibly take a short-term loss for long-term gains. Running a situation or a scenario on both future and current costs gives you the full picture and allows you to get aggressive when you need to be aggressive, or allows you to avoid bad business decisions. I'm going to run through both a negative and a positive example of how future and current costs, and looking at both of them holistically, can allow you to make a better business decision. Example 1, commodity cost increases. In this example, you sell a product that is heavily reliant on one or two commodities. Your commodity goes through seasonal shifts. In the winter, prices go up, and in the summer, prices go down. But the consumer retail price of your product holds steady throughout the year. Your merchant gives you an opportunity to run a 4-week deep dive promo with additional marketing and in-store support. but they want to run it in the winter. It's summer right now. So if you look at your current costs, the promo's margin would be thin, but the SGM dollars would edge out and be more than what you would do in your current circumstance. Great, right? Okay, let's look at what the situation would look like using your future costs. By the time you're running your promo 6 months down the lane or in the winter season, costs would be higher. Your thin margin would evaporate and you would be spending money to lose money as your promo would be less profitable than your normal turn business. So with that information, what can you do? If you used your future costs as guidance, you can go back to your merchant and say, hey, I'm interested in running this promo, but can we shift it towards the summer time frame when it makes more sense for me? Or alternatively, if you know that he or she wants to run it in the winter time and is hard set on that date, you can make the product now, holding your current cost, and then ship it in the winter using your future cost. In this example, both future and current costs allows you to avoid taking a loss and gives you the foresight to go back and maintain the ask of your merchant in an educated way. Example 2, winning volume through a line review. In this example, you're in a line review with a distributor. You have kick-ass product and the merchant wants to bring you on over your competitors. This would be the most product you've ever had the chance to sell. You got a small problem though. The merchant wants to lower your proposed price by 10%. This would put you slightly in the red. You would start shipping your product at a loss. Before you make your decision, let's look at current and future costs. At current cost, you would be losing money. As we stated before, you would be shipping your product at a loss. Sounds like a bad idea, but what about future costs? What if you could get a 40% reduction in cost from your suppliers because of the increase in product volume with this new retailer? If that's the case, then this is a no-brainer. Take the short-term loss and start shipping. Eventually, you're going to get back that margin with that distributor. Plus, you're going to see a 40% benefit with that shipments on that same product to all of your other distributors because your costs went down due to all the volume you're giving to your suppliers. In this example, seeing both the future and current costs allows you to make a tactical decision that puts you ahead in the long run despite the short-term loss. In the end, you want to make a well-educated decision that's going to put your business ahead. Taking into account your costs today as well as tomorrow allows you to think and possibly outmaneuver rough seas or your competition. That's why I think it's vital to think in terms of both future and current costs when planning financially. I hope you enjoyed learning about future and current costs. Again, this is Mike Bonides with the Merchants of Business, and that's great P&L ownership.